Welcome to the Big Mike Fun Podcast, where you learn about advanced wealth building strategies from real estate investing to creating massive ROI and secured retirement profits. So pour yourself a cup of coffee, grab a notepad, and lean in. Because Big Mike has got the mic, starting now.
Welcome to the Big Mike Fun Podcast. I'm the Big Mike Zlatnik, and today it is my great pleasure and privilege to welcome back my really good friend, Jason Medley. Hey, Jay.
Big Mike, what's up, my friend? I like that. You're like, I'm the Big Mike's.
Well, the name goes back, it has the roots from the CG. That's
Yeah, I was just looking at you. I was like, I knew you when there was no gray in that hair.
Well,
We've been together for about 10 years.
more than that.
Yeah.
You heard me crack this joke. You either got a memory problem or a math problem.
Yeah, I know.
So
One of those
I've started
right.
CG 2012. I remember when you were running the Visionary, it was before then. So it's been a great
Yeah.
journey. It's more than 10 years, 11, 12. So
Yeah, a long
And-
time.
and-
Been a good ride.
it's been a great ride. So before we dive into how's CG doing, how's family?
Family is good, man. Me and I think most folks will say when their marriage is good, everything is good. And so right now, me and my wife Jen are doing good. We certainly have our ups and downs like everybody else, and every now and then a good fight. But I think all in all, we're doing great. Me and Ava's 9 now, and we are very tight as daughter, father. We just went go-karting last week. That was a blast. I didn't know how she liked that, being a little girl, but she totally dug that. And my mom's doing good, living here in Florida, close by now. So that's been a real blessing. And then, business is good. So like we were saying before we jumped on here, lots to be thankful for. And as you said it best, thank God. Yeah.
Thank God. I'm
Yeah.
really happy to hear you're doing well. Give my regards to Jen, and so happy to hear that Ava and Daddy are just bonding and doing well. That's
Yeah.
really the most important thing.
Yeah.
You live your life through your kids, right? You're enjoying what she's enjoying, right? That's been my experience. You're experiencing kind of beauty of life through your kids. Your kids are happy and they're enjoying life. That makes you happy, right?
I say in general, that's the case. There's definitely some things that she enjoys. I don't. She's still 9 years old, and she still wants snuggle time with her mommy and daddy before she gets put to bed each night. And somehow she manages to get to the television before I do at nighttime, and she puts on those little kiddie shows. And at some point after by Wednesday of the week, I'm like, I'm going to sit again.
So you're not going to enjoy everything that the kid enjoys.
Yeah,
I'm sure you're
yeah.
not playing with Barbie dolls and stuff like that, but watching cartoons.
Yeah,
Right.
no, but we're having fun.
That's great. Let's kind of jump to CG. So you're the founder, CEO of CG. You've been growing the baby for many years. It's gone from being a baby as your other child, is a mature, I guess, adult at this point. Young adult, maybe beyond the young adult. So how is the group doing? What's new and exciting? What's been the evolution? What's the latest and greatest?
Yeah. So we're rocking along. And I'd say the biggest reason of that is because, we really invested in our team this year. We have made 3 just really critical hires. Brought in, Brian Snyder, as our COO. Is a gentleman who was part of an organization that flipped 250 or so homes a year. That's something that I really, really, really needed as an entrepreneur for 20 plus years. And so it's been just amazing having him on board to kind of take over operations so I can think up new things and launch new products, which we just launched. That's another great thing. We just launched what we call CG Elevate, which is, we have our premier level, which is typically people, if you're speaking of house flips, do 100 plus flips a year, or if it's just self-storage or whatever it may be, running at least a $4 million business. And then we have our select level, which is if it's house flipping, say 35, 40 to 100 deals a year. Those guys are usually running a $1 to $3 million business. And then we have our Elevate product, which we just launched, which 10 to 30 flips. So, having Brian on board has allowed me to and not only allowed me to think it up, but also to help launch that. And then hired a director of marketing, and so that's exciting as well to have someone full time. All the things I used to handle operations and marketing and everything, and we brought in some real talent there. And then at a member level, probably the most important is we've hired a full time what we call member concierge, who's really their job on a daily basis is to be interfacing with our members to really figure out what do they need, or more importantly, probably who do they need? Who do they need to help them solve the problems that they're currently dealing with? And so 3 key hires. And, really probably the biggest thing that happened is at the end of last year, at the end of October, brought in an equity partner. And that probably for me as an entrepreneur gave me the mental capacity to look at the business in a different way. Whereas I think before that, a lot of entrepreneurs say, "Oh, we need to fill this position. It's going to be $200,000 a year." And then you think, "Oh, $200,000, it's going to take them a year to, to figure out what they're doing." So kind of the first year I'm eating 200 grand and, that whole chatter that goes on in their minds. And then with bringing in an equity partner, that those conversations don't live in here anymore because of how things are structured. And it's just really given me a freedom to look at the business and how are we going to serve our members at a higher level and expand the organization without necessarily fretting about the things, when it was all my baby that I would fret about, so lots of things happening. We're I think as of today around 341 memberships, and still growing, and but still dealing with challenges just like anybody else who's running a business. So but I love what I do. I love serving our community, and I'm still enjoying the ride after 12 12 13 years.
Yeah, I appreciate the update and great leadership. And I remember you and I chatted, and I can't remember how long ago it was. And you said what's really important is job number one is to get the right team. Don't worry about profitability. Don't really worry about anything else. Just get the team beefed up so that you have the right talent, the right people on the bus, and the right seats. Remember the conversation stuck in my head. We've grown too. We've hired a number of strong people to help run the business. And at the end of the day, it helps you as a leader to be really working on the business, not in the business. And that's the whole idea. So I appreciate that suggestion. And you ate your own cat food or your own dog food. That's exactly what you've been doing. And
yeah, no, it's been a good ride. We've got some great new talent on our team this year, and I'm excited about the business still. After 13 years, I'm still excited about the collective genius.
That's awesome. So CG is growing. I mean, we're obviously going into economic slowdown, pretty obvious. So right before the call, we talked about people are running for safety now. They're parking the cash in treasuries, and it's normal and natural. By the way, if you read Dallas' book, Managing Big Debt Crisis, Navigating Big Debt Crisis, it talks about these type of situations. We've entered a period of deleveraging. And during that period, interest rates rise, and when it credit tightens, and returns on equity get more questionable, and the substitution effect kicks in. Folks take the money out of equities and they put them into debt investments, especially treasuries with the higher safety at the current yields. Right? It's kind of been take no risk. Let's see what the game will play out in the next 6 to 12 months and make the decisions then. But for now. So what are you seeing from the members? I'm just curious, what are people saying on the business front? Is business shrinking, succeeding? Let me kind of pose the first question by this. Well, it's not a hypothesis. It's kind of the reality. Transaction volume is down. Transaction volume down a lot. And this is in the commercial, 70 to 75%. And in residential, no supply. People just not selling houses because the interest rates are low. They locked in those mortgages. Nobody wants to move. Nobody wants to do anything. So it's kind of like there's no distress. There's no supply. So what's happening with people who do fix and flip? What's happening with people who do commercial? It's a weird state of affairs when the volume is just not there.
Yeah, it is weird. I've been in real estate and finance for 20 plus years, 20, maybe 22, 23 years. And it's a weird dynamic right now, going through a period where we've never had that low of interest rates, for such an extended period of time. And now we have a different type of, a different type of game that we're playing. And so I think the reality of it is, in the single family space, there's been a lot of people that in order to adapt to the change in volumes, I think number one, I think in the single family space, there's still plenty of money to be made from the simple fact that inventory is low. And so when you get it and you put together a good product, you're going to sell that product. That doesn't mean that a lot of people haven't had to make pretty substantial adjustments in their business. I mean, if you go from, let's say you were doing 15 rehabs a month and now, the velocity and the number of transactions has slowed dramatically and you're only doing, 10, then that obviously requires a different staff. Or maybe the same staff minus a few heads is really probably the majority of what people have done. And so they've had to really, really focus on trimming the fat at a staff level. These types of times or economic changes and shifts really reveal who on your team is an A player, who's a B player, who's a C player. And so, I think some people have had to kind of go through and force rank their team and make some tough decisions to trim that team down, to make up for some of the lack of velocity in transactions. And I think they've also had to really, really get focused on being hyper efficient. I think there's this big term that everybody throws around. I want to scale. I want to scale. I want to scale. And it's to me, it's kind of bastardized a little bit, because scale what? I think so many people got kind of tied in mentally to scaling the number of doors they have, or scaling the number of square feet, or scaling the number of flips they're doing, or but really, I think folks kind of coming back around and realize they just want to scale their bank account. And because sometimes you can get caught up in those other things, you can take on too much debt. You can get really good at acquisition of investment property, but not so good at maybe the operational capacities to get it through your pipeline and exit it, et cetera. And so I think a lot of people are really taking a hard look at like, you know what? I can still do great. I can still make plenty of money. I'm just going to have to do it differently. And that involves probably a little bit of a smaller team, and, really trying to be hyper efficient. That's probably my 2 cents on the single family side. And I think a lot of, major metros across the country are still, granted, the volume is not there just simply because of, it's not there a lot of times because of interest rates, people wanting to sit tight. But, in most of the major metros, we're back to a competitive market. There's not, property that's sitting on the shelves. So there's a difference in sometimes why transactions are not taking place. We went through a period where it's because rates went up. Now we're in a period because, hey, everybody's kind of used to the rates on the single family side, but a lot of people don't want to move because of their existing mortgages. So on the commercial side, you and I were talking before we kind of hit the record button here, and I think that's still very much unfolding. It's already gotten a little messy. I think it's probably going to continue to get messier just from the perspective that a lot of people took on, adjustable debt, or it was fixed for a short term and became adjustable inside of 2 years, 3 years, et cetera. Those new adjustable rates are putting them in positions where the properties that they had purchased are not going to cash flow at the existing rates, and that's going to create a lot of pain, a lot of agony for a lot of people. So that's I think the smart folks are like, how do I continue to make good money? How do I do it hyper efficiently? And how do I really, really mitigate risk right now? You and I were just talking about something I never thought I would publicly confess in my life, which is that a majority of my cash and actually a substantial part of my net worth is in U.S. treasuries. I'd still laugh when I say that. I never thought I would say that, but after you've been through a few of these boom and busts, you start to realize that, okay, when they raise interest rates and that hits my real estate investing business, well, then I get some liquidity and I come over here and I invest in treasuries at 5%. And then if the treasuries deliver a lower yield because they're cutting rates, then that means there's probably going to be opportunity back in the marketplace, and we'll take some of the money from treasuries and go into equities, right? And so, I'm glad. Well, I'm sure we're not all completely without pain, but at our age, midlifers, having gone through a few of these, you're starting to figure out the game a little bit. So that's my 2 cents on kind of where the market's at.
Yeah, great wisdom, and that's the truth right now. I'm working on a presentation; it'll become available. I'm calling you "Don't just survive the economic downturn, learn how to thrive." And part of the discussion is looking at what you got, look at your entire portfolio, and assess exactly what you said. Is the deal performing on the operating basis? And is the interest in the mortgage safe? Is the rate resetting? Is the mortgage maturing? And then you have 4 conditions, right? Operational doing good, mortgage is safe, you're good. Mortgage is bad, operationally good, what do you do? Or operationally bad, mortgage is good, what do you do? And in the worst case, when the mortgage is resetting and you're not doing well from operating perspective, these type of properties could be a loss. And it's unfortunate. In the markets were too good for too long. People were just used to making easy money, and now it's gotten a whole lot harder. And some deals are not going good, and it's a shock. Well, we're dealing with a shocked environment. If you think about this has never happened, like you said. The interest rate shock is a gigantic adjustment over a very short period of time, and it is a result of very loose Fed monetary policy, reserve policy for too long. And we can go blame the Fed or not; it doesn't matter. At this point, we're dealing with this environment that is going to continue to cause some challenges. So, what do you think, from your perspective? When are you going to be ready to move the money out of treasuries into some equity deals? So again, there's no simple answer. It's when the deal's going to get a lot more attractive and the interest rates drop and the high level substitution effect will make sense. But what do you think, just from your point of view?
Yeah.
What do you need to see on the equity side to get excited?
Yeah. I mean, I think ultimately, fortunate enough to be in a spot where, although, I would love a much higher return than, 4 3/4 or 5% on treasuries. Fortunate enough to be in a spot where that's not bad right now. And so I think ultimately for me, it would be, the Fed gets to a spot that the only way that's going to go down is if the Fed begins cutting rates, right? If the Fed begins cutting rates, that signals that they're trying to stimulate the economy because the economy is not doing well. And that's almost a shift in policy again, if you will, right? They made it very clear what they're doing. We're tamping things down. And I think when they decide to start lowering rates again, that they will be like, okay, we're changing policy. We're going to try to stimulate the economy. And I know that's a very simplistic answer, but, for me, this phase of my life, I heard a quote and you have to forgive me because I don't remember exactly who said it. But most people, they answer the questions you ask them based on where they're at in their career and where they're at in their life, right? You're answering it from where you're at. So a gentleman I heard, I think is a gentleman named Alex Ramosi, that said that wealth is created by taking large amounts of risk with small amounts of money. Wealth is preserved by taking small amounts of risk with large amounts of money. And I'm in a spot in my life where I want to take small amounts of risk with large amounts of money until it no longer makes sense to do that. And the only thing that I could think of when I would take more money out of treasuries and put it into equities, whether it be stock market, real estate, or whatever, is I'm going to have to feel super confident about getting a return worthy of foregoing the security associated with treasuries. That's And I don't see that happening until they were to shift rates. Because again, I'm 51 years old. And like I said, if it's enough money, if it's at 5%, it's not so bad. And I understand and respect. This may be a great topic of conversation, actually. I respect the whole inflation, the cost of living, but if your expenses in life are this much, right? And you have this much money, and that money is making a return that way exceeds your expenses, like that you need to live. Inflation is somewhat irrelevant.
Jay, it's great wisdom. So David Phelps, Freedom Founders, calls the freedom number. You hit your freedom number, you exceeded it by a large margin where your passive income is greatly exceeding your cost, your living cost. And when you do that, you are well out of the rat race. You are feeling mentally happy. You're feeling great. And you don't need to take a lot of risk. The whole section what we just said, it's beyond brilliant. It's so awesome. I just love the phrase you said, small amount of risk, large amount of money. That's the safety. That's the wealth preservation.
Yeah.
And a lot of risk with a little bit of money is wealth growth. If things work out. If they don't, you're okay. And that makes total sense. And by the way, you are spot on you're not a Wall Street guru. But what's most amazing and most fascinating, the wisdom you came to is from a practical experience. The good old rule, when to go back into the market, is when the Fed starts easing, not before. This is the general rule of thumb on historic basis. And obviously it's applicable to the stock market, and it is applicable also to real estate. So without knowing this, you actually said superbly brilliant things just because you have the great wisdom of great leader and a very smart fellow, and you kind of came to brilliant ideas without studying this formula. So I acknowledge this, and I want to say it. It's just brilliant.
20 plus years of studying, maybe not books, but street. Yeah.
So let's continue discussion a little bit. So these are great nuggets. Let's go back to the CG for a minute. So it's great that you're launching CG. Elevate. So I remember the days when we were CG. It wasn't what they called Premier. It was CG. People were doing 30 deals a year. This is good old days. And now it's CG Elevate, which is third level from the top. You're serving a broader ecosystem of investors out there, all the way from folks that are starting all the way to the folks that are pretty successful. So beyond that, are you also delivering any additional products or services? I realized that the group has always been about education. Group has always been about networking, which is exactly what you said. You brought a concierge person to help folks network better. Just curious, anything else that's going on beyond launching that? Is there additional sort of kind of services being launched? Because the community is great. And I think it's kind of increase the quantity, but also increasing the quality.
So I hesitate to say this, but we haven't made a decision on it. But part of the Elevate, so we have 3 tiers. We have Premier, our top dogs like you, Mike. We have Select, and now we have Elevate. And part of Elevate, our faculty there, if you will, our facilitators, our leaders in Elevate, work for one of our Premier members, Eric Brewer. So Ben, Mott, and Joe, who are leading Elevate, these guys are super talented in sales and operations. And because of the experience, and I don't mean this in any way to be condescending, I just may not verbalize it correctly, or the lack thereof of experience between the folks in Elevate, who do, say, 10 to 30 deals a year. It's more, rather than just a community, they're getting coaching calls on a weekly basis. Right? From Ben, Mott, and Joe, who are effectively running Eric's business. And so one of the things we're thinking about is, and it was kind of our customers spoke up at the Select level. They were like, well, we want to be on those weekly coaching calls. And so although we have a ton of opportunity on a monthly basis for our select members, whether it's through sales and marketing masterminds, the virtual sales and marketing mastermind, virtual operations, virtual financial, like on a monthly basis, they have about 8 different calls to choose from or to put their teams on. We had quite a few folks say, "Hey, we would love to be on those weekly coaching calls at the Elevate level." Because it is a big value. Those guys are Benoit and Joe, who are running that, are very sharp individuals. And so we may be launching that as a kind of a bolt-on product to the select structure, if you will. And then, the other thing, Mike, is we've really dramatically changed the structure of our events themselves in the last, in March. All the events are very, very different than they used to be for so many years. And so in and of itself, we're changing the product, so we're running tracks now where instead of, CG used to be, you would come in and, before we did our hot seats, it was like everyone sat in the same room the first day and whoever was on the stage is who you were going to listen to. Right. But now we basically are running tracks where at 1:00, there's 3 different rooms you can go into. One of those rooms is dedicated to sales. One is dedicated to marketing. One is dedicated to operations. You get to pick your lane. Hey, we're operationally solid, but we need to generate more leads. All right, well, I'm going in the marketing track and I'm going to hear three kick-ass presenters talking about lead generation and marketing for the next hour. So, we are changing our products dramatically as we speak. All of those operational changes and shifts are pretty substantial on our side. I know that for sure.
I certainly wanted to acknowledge this. I remember the March meeting, and it was definitely an enhanced experience. And these different track concepts, it makes sense. You go to a large conference, same thing happens, breakout sessions, and not everything is ideal for everyone. So more
Choice.
Tailored content is important. There are different strokes for different folks. That makes a lot of sense. And that's great. And I love the fact that you're doing coaching to those folks that need coaching. I think especially at that Elevate level, it makes a lot of sense. These folks are aspiring, they have great energy, but they need a little bit of help. And that's actually great service. So I think from my perspective, just observing it from a sideline, you've certainly grown and evolved and big to your leadership and the whole CG leadership team. So great work. Great leadership.
Sure. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that very much.
Well, we're running out of time. All good things, unfortunately, must come to an end. So does this podcast. So any final thoughts, any good recent books, anything else? And if folks are listening and they want to reach out and inquire how to join CG, who do they speak to? Leon, what's the best way? What's the best website? What forms do they fill out? Just share this.
Sure. A great book I would suggest. I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books. I'm more of a collector. I usually read a few pages and then chuck it on the shelf. But there are a few books that I would say have changed my life. Very, very few. And one just got added to that list. And it is called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. Every CEO, every entrepreneur struggles with managing their productivity from a calendar perspective, email perspective, document perspective, filing, everything. And a lot of the times you can't get to working on what's important because you're living in your email and calendaring and travel reservation. And so that book really, really, really has given me a ton of freedom back after a 20 plus year entrepreneurial journey. It's a breath of fresh air. So I can't stress. And again, I'm not somebody, I got hundreds of books. I don't recommend many of them at all. It's a great book. Buy Back Your Time. Dan Martell. As far as advice, my best success has always come from managing a balance of safety and aggression. Balance of safety and aggression. I think it's a sound way to live life, a sound way to run your business. Don't get too caught up in going too fast. I think that's the mistake most people make. They go too fast and they don't have enough focus. They build the skyscraper, but don't have a strong enough foundation. And the higher they build a skyscraper, the more at risk they are of it falling over. And so build your skyscraper, build it slowly, ensure your foundation is strong as you continue to put additional stories on that skyscraper. And if anybody would like to learn about CG, you're welcome to check it out. You can kind of get like a behind the scenes of what does an event like actually look like? What is this whole CG thing, right? What happens there? Who's there? If you want to kind of get a little behind the scenes, you can go to dominatethedownturn.com. That's dominatethedownturn.com. And that'll again, it's a great video that walks you through who's at the event, what's at the event, what topics we're speaking of. It's a happening video. So that's it.
Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for being both humble and a little bit aggressive, giving people the I know you're a humble servant at heart, and you always come. I remember the many meetings. Leave your ego at the door. Serve, right? Every meeting. This is the core values of the community. So you are really a humble person at heart. At the same time, I agree with you. Folks need to be a little bit more proactive, a little bit aggressive, but not too aggressive. And the last nugget: build your skyscraper with strong foundation, and don't be too aggressive building it too fast. It's a great wisdom, because it's very easy to build, and you build house of cards, or you build something that doesn't have good foundation. It can fall. A little bit of a wind, a little bit of market volatility, and you got a big problem in your hands. So,
hey, what, our next podcast, when you hit me up in a year from now or 2 years from now and do this again, I've got a pretty cool story with a slide deck and everything about the skyscraper story. It's the story of two investors. It would make for a rocking next episode whenever the time comes.
I'll take you up on that. Jason, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I appreciate you, my friend, and wishing CG absolutely the best. I'm there. I love the group. It's kind of like I'm almost to the point. I'm not one of the first people in the group, but I joined close, and I'm amazed and impressed how much it's grown. So I'm so super happy for CG, super happy for you, and I appreciate our friendship, and stay well, my friend.
Sir, I love you, Big Mike. Thanks, everybody. Hope we brought you some value today.
Thank you for listening to the Big Mike Fund Podcast. To receive your copy of Mike's How to Choose a Smart Real Estate Fund book, head to bigmikefund.com or visit Amazon and type Mike's slot name. Keep listening and keep investing Big Mike style. See you on the next episode.